Hello, everybody. Welcome to Menorca Consciousness Group for this live chat with lovely Stephen Rowlands. Thank you so much, Stephen. Hello.
Thanks for having me, Colin.
Oh, no, thank you. It's so kind of you to give you your time and join us. I like these chats with you, to be honest. You've got
that. Yeah, it's good with people. Yeah. You know, likewise, it's good to chat. You know,
it's
good to talk about like the title, all things spiritual. It's good just to chat and stuff like that. You know, I find chatting you can learn so much. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I find when I first started going into the churches, one of my favourite times was after the demonstration had finished, or after the circle or the healing, because you could sit in the back room. In them days, you could smoke in there, so I could sit in the back room, cup of tea, cigarette. Everybody was relaxed, and it's like you learn so much in them conversations because the demonstration's based on the communication aspect, isn't it? You know, and then the after chat, it's all spirit and how it works, how it functions. I was up for years. I loved it for years.
Yeah, so, I think that after service is very, very productive. You know, because I learned a lot because I was sort of like 18 years old, and you know, there's people that have been involved in spiritualism for donkey's years. You know, and they would sit and talk, and I would just sort of like sit and listen and ask questions, and you know, I got a lot out of it. You know, and I think people want to talk about it. I really do think people want to talk about it. In my own experience, especially over the last couple of years, I think people really want to talk about how it all works.
Yeah.
The whys and the wherefores of everything. But I don't think that's being catered for, if you know what I mean, in the spiritualist churches. You know, there's not very often that you find cup of tea time now afterwards, you know. And, you know, online, you know, there's chats like this and there's a few other people. I do chats where, you know, like coffee time when I get the time to do it. But
yeah, because I enjoy listening to yours when you do them. That's what got me to this, inviting you onto this, because I was, especially last year, was it last year, year before, and sat there listening to the different people you had on, and it's like, it's just so beneficial for everybody. For me, that's the way I think anyway. And the talking, I mean, I don't know. When I was in the UK, going to do a demonstration, and then, you know, they kind of finish the demonstration, and it's like, okay, thank you, good night, and you know, and everybody gets ushered out, and you think, where's the chat? Where's the talk? Where's the communion?
Yeah, I think, me personally, to me, church is a community.
Yeah.
You know, you're amongst friends, you know, or like-minded people, whichever way you want to put it.
Yeah.
And there should be that little bit of, if you want, for want of a better way of putting it, Colin, social life.
Yes.
You know, we're having a cup of tea and you're having a chat and, you know, all the rest of it. And you get to know people as well, you know. And I think that's a good thing, especially because I think people may disagree with me, but I do think that there are lonely people within the spiritualist church, or they're alone in their grief or whatever, you know. And I think that cup of tea and that chat can just give that little bit of healing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally agree. I remember often you'd get, you know, there'd be some, I don't want to say some old lady, but there'd be somebody turning up at church, and it was their life, you know, and they'd get the bus or whatever in all sorts of weathers, like, you know, they do.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to get there to sit in that little community and sit with spirit in that energy, that beautiful energy of light.
That's right.
And you sit there talking to them afterwards, and it's like, and there's always somebody's go, you know, oh, I better get going. I've got to catch the bus. And there's always somebody to turn around and go, what do you mean, Captain? Come on, I'll nip you home. You're all right. Have another cup of tea and I'll drop you off. And I used to love that kind of, that to me is where the aspect is. But what I found these days is what you've just said. There's so many inquiry minds now. There's so many people want to know, the ins and outs, the workings of spirit, trying to get it correct so they can improve themselves and get into that kind of space where they can get the evidence from spirit or get that connection with them. All them sort of aspects to it. There's just that boom at the minute, isn't it? Which was in a way to ask you this question, to be honest. And it was the only question I got before we come on, to be honest. And I thought, okay, I'll ask him. We'll probably get on and ask him this one then. And it was, what do you think? Your thoughts? What's your thoughts on spiritualism today, rather than the past? What's your thoughts on spiritualism today? How do you find it? And
may I quote Shakespeare? Two houses, both, right. Two houses, both alike in dignity. In fair Verona, where we lay our scene, or in fair Great Britain, where we lay our scene. I think there's two houses at the moment with mediumship. There's the traditional ones like myself who do the churches and the centres, and there's those that want to do the pubs and the clubs and the theatres, and I want to make a living out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just think, like I say to a lot of people, it's only sort of like a tiny percentage of those that go on to do theatres and TV shows and all this and pubs and clubs and all the rest of it, And there's the rest of us that are going up and down the motorway in all weathers, finishing work and then driving 100 miles to do a demonstration and all the rest of it. And but the comment I get is that people don't want religion. Okay, and I can understand that, because to me, spiritualism is not a religion; it's a way of life. Yeah, it's a way of eternal life. You know what I mean? Yeah. The spirit are coming along, and they're trying to show us how to lead it.
Yeah,
and but people get confused with religious ritual and the spiritualist church. Okay, just by its nature, it says church, so automatically they're going to think religion, aren't they? But which is understandable. But I always try to explain to people, what we mean by prayer. If you break down prayer, it's thought and spirit communicating thought, spirit communicating emotion. Prayer is thought and emotion. While we have hymns or pop songs, is to raise the energy for spirit to communicate in, and I don't want a demonstration of mediumship or a demonstration of healing to be seen as a Saturday night out.
Yeah.
I want some reverence there. I want some respect there for spirit, because one of my big things that I say a hell of a lot now is you get out of spirit communication what you put in.
Yeah.
So if there's a loving vibration and the energies are high, great. You've got to be a house freak not to get great spirit communication. Or if people are in varying states of intoxication, even. All right.
That one.
or drunk, right? But or they thinking I paid £40 a ticket. This is not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
No, he didn't bring my mum through or whatever. You get that in the churches and the centres anyway. But
I agree.
I think we should go back to traditional, and maybe I think the spiritualist movement in itself could like modernise itself.
Yeah.
But keep to the core beliefs, keep to the core structure.
Yeah. I have a tendency where I won't do pubs. Well, I wouldn't previously in England. I had a friend of mine. There was a couple, and one of them had fell ill. He rang me up. I've got a demonstration in such and such. Can you go do it? I mean, I don't do pubs. Anyway, we had a conversation, and I conceded. I thought, no, fair enough, I will. On this occasion, because even though it was going against my rule of thumb, and it was okay. But if it got any, it was borderline, because you've got them sitting there drinking, the mind's getting a bit loose. You can't have, a clear conversation with them afterwards because they're half a light, and that was it. I thought, and at that moment, I was like, I'm not doing no more. That was it. That was the one and only. I was like, no chance. I mean, others can do it, and I get where some people go, well, we're still putting spirit into those realms. It's still, they're getting the benefit to a certain degree, and I get it.
I see that, because I think that you can bring spirit, because we are spirit, we are eternal. You can bring spirit, not just spirit communication, into any environment.
Yeah.
If you've got teaching and knowledge, you can bring that into any environment. I always refer back to what Silver Birch says, about expressing the will of the Great Spirit.
Yeah.
If we're trying to create good in whatever situation, or help someone in whatever situation there is, we're expressing divine will.
Yeah.
No, and we're just as much serving spirit or demonstrating divine will as we are standing out giving people messages. That's just my way of thinking. I know that wasn't a very good way of putting it, but yeah.
No, but I get it. It's like, because it's spirituality, at the end of the day, innit? For me, it's about spirituality. Yeah. It's about the way we act in a spiritual sense without religion. I'm the same. I think the same. I don't think spiritualism is a religion. Personally, regardless of circumstances, especially in the UK, and the theme of religion, spiritualism being a religion, that's fine. I get where they're coming from. I understand why and the workings and mechanics of it. But for me, no, it's got to be left out. It's not that it's got to be left out. It is what it is. But for me, it doesn't apply as a religion. And even though, like yourself, we're at it all day long, with spirit, the present, we know that it becomes our life to a certain point. And I've never once classed it as a religion. I think the situation at the minute is really interesting because, like you said, you've got the old traditional way of spiritualism and mediums, etc., and the way it was all formed and worked. And then you've got this new, super fast, accelerated, almost, awakening is what's taking place in the world. And so many people are, I feel for some of them at the minute. I really do, because I think some of them have an awakening, the psychic faculties opening up, and they've got a momentum what they can't control.
Yeah.
In so much as it's naturally happening to them. So they're trying to grab the good teachings, the best teachings, or the correct teachings as much as they can. And it's almost like they can't keep up with their own energies sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you've got the traditional spiritualism, which was more based on connecting with spirit and giving evidential information.
Yeah.
Where now it's like it's just gone boom, and there's a broad spectrum, and there's the use of the cards, the psychic messages mixed in with spiritual messages, and there's this kind of big melting pot going on. I absolutely love it. I just love it. But I see it's interesting how the old and the new are trying to kind of blend together.
Yeah.
That fascinates me, because I think there's some in the old tradition. I don't want to call it the old tradition. I think there's some traditional minds what genuinely want to move forward as far as the modern spiritualism is concerned.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like yourself, give that positive input to people what are new into this, way of life, so to speak, or way of living. So it's there's so many levels and facets to this.
Oh yeah, I mean, we are. I'm glad there's a rise of the psychic, if you know what I mean. because it's like when I do a trance demonstration, like there's questions and answers with my spirit guides, and I say to the people organising it, don't allow them to ask any silly questions like, am I going to move house?
Yeah.
Or is my husband coming back and stuff like that? Or when I get the new job? Go see a psychic. But, and then sort of like places like the SNU and places like that will say that they'll make a different differentiation between psychic and mediumship or mediumistic. Okay. Spirit communicators are using psychic energy to get through. So it's all psychic to me.
It is.
But they're just using that. Your granddad or whoever's communicating, your granddad, your mum, your dad, your spirit guide are using psychic energy to get that communication through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, that's the differentiation, but one shouldn't discount the other.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because nobody can be a spiritual medium without using the psychic faculty.
That's right. Yeah.
It ain't going to happen. That's the psyche. It's mind.
Yeah.
So I guess. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
But it comes in on levels. If you want a message from your granddad or your mum and dad or whoever, your best friend that you lost years ago, see a medium, but realise that whoever it is that's communicating is using psychic energy, and your guides are building psychic energy for that communication to take place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you want to know if you're going to move house or you're going to be able to go on holiday or when you're going to be happy and all this, go and see somebody who works purely psychically, who doesn't bring loved ones through. Yeah,
I agree. It's like when you've like yourself, when you've got a medium, an entranced medium, spirits in communicating, I've always believed, and this goes from years ago, and I can give you a couple of instances, but we won't. But and it's like, if you're going to ask spirit any questions during trance state, and I know people might be offended by this, but ask intelligent, meaningful questions.
That's right.
For me, you've got spirit present there, and it's almost as close as we can get them. And the golden opportunity is to ask really intelligent, life-changing questions, rather than those what you've said. I could be wrong for that. People might go, well, why shouldn't we be able to ask them anything?
What's me, Colin? You've got a spirit guide there.
Yeah.
And if you're asking that spirit guide, will I sell my house? This spirit guide isn't an estate agent.
That's
you know what I mean?
It's true.
So I have to, where I demonstrate once, I'll send them like a little thing, written thing saying, right, Stephen's spirit guides will come through. They'll talk to you about your spiritual development or your life path.
Yeah.
Not when you're going to sell your house. You know what I mean? Or if you're going to have an holiday this year or whatever.
Well, I mean, if you do, maybe this is a good point, what's been raised, because part of our own spiritual development or evolution gets us to a point where you no longer need to ask those questions, because you're going to know the answer anyway yourself. Am I going to move? Yes, I am. Regardless of circumstances, I'm going to move. Am I going to be in a relationship? Yes, I am at some point. So really what we're talking about is if we can develop ourselves to such a capacity, which doesn't take a lot, it's only moving a couple of layers away, and that truth comes to the surface within us. We've got all those answers to all those types of questions.
And everything in its own time, you know what I mean? It's because spirits, I mean, sometimes I can't believe that I have to say this to people. They're saying, when's this and when's that? But, spirit can only help you so far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're not making the effort, like to put your for sale sign outside your house, and like get the estate agents getting the viewings, or if you want to be in a relationship, mix with people, or go on a dating site or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, we've got to put the effort in, we've got to put the energy in, and then spirit can come along and sort of like point us in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's like
You know what I mean? People have got to realise that they've got to put the work in as well,
Yeah. Well, I mean, we both know Spoon's not going to do it for us. That's where the word itself comes in, guide and guidance. They can guide us in a certain way to a certain point, but we're the ones what's got to do it. It's like mediums. What caught my attention years ago, and it still applies now anyway, so it's present, which is, and we don't always catch it as mediums, but I often used to hear mediums on the platform, and they'd say to, a recipient, somebody in the congregation, they'd go, Spirit's telling me you can do this, you've got the capacity to do this. And you would hear that on a regular basis. Wait, they won't show up on my doorstep.
Yeah, I like
Yeah, thanks, Neva. Hi, Neva. Hi, Busher. Lovely to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. I've been meaning to say hello to you guys. Hi, Busher. Thank you. Yeah, so it's like, but you don't often hear a medium say to the recipient who they've just give that to, Spirit's telling me you've got the capacity, they're going to be working with you, blah, blah, blah. And the little recipient sitting there, bless them, going, oh, that's wonderful. I might be able to become a medium, or I'm going to be a medium. And not often do you hear the medium say to the person, but you've got to put the work in. You have to go into action. So what happens is, what I used to see, different now, but what it used to be like is sometimes you get often get the same person getting the same type of message and never move.
Yeah, because they're not moving. Yeah.
Like Neva's just said, oh, so they won't show up at my doorstep then. It's like, no, you have to go to the door, open up and invite them in. Interesting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if I had £1 for every time I give somebody a message saying that they've got the capacity with this awareness, these gifts, whatever you want to call it, and they'll be amazing one day. But, you go back there 6 months, a year later or whatever, and they're still in the same state. Yeah. Because they haven't bothered to sort of like inquire about development circles or ask Spirit to guide them to the right development circle.
Yeah.
The rest of it, and then Spirit will stand back and say, well, you ain't bothered, why should we? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hi, Patrick. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Patrick. Hope you're well, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that old saying, you prepare from Spirit. You prepare, we'll provide.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Love it. I love it. And it's funny. And it's like, you have to meet us halfway. We'll meet you halfway. Come on, meet us halfway. They don't meet us halfway. They take loads more steps than what we do towards us and what we can get towards them. It's a trick of the mind, but it works. What I love today, what I'm seeing and being a part of is, because most of ours, if not all of ours, is online.
Yeah.
And I just love seeing so many people having the Zoom meetings, having these chats, having, different, well, not as much as these chats, to be honest, like we're doing. But looking at the different things, what's out there, I just absolutely love it, because there's so much progress, spiritual progress taking place. And people going, oh, I'd like to learn this. I need to. And some of them, the questions, what was on last night, I watched something last night, and there was some amazing questions, what we know, everyday sort of questions regarding spirit. What do I do about this? How does it work? And I just love watching it. And I think, and you go on the likes of Facebook and TikTok, and it's loaded and full of them. It's almost, it just took off in the most spectacular way. And I think it's going to carry on in that way. But for me, it's all about, and I share the same thing as you do, Stephen. It's about having reverence. I've got reverence for spirit. That will never change, because I know they have a greater wisdom than what my mind has. I know they can see 1,000 times clearer than what I can see. And I think humanity would have been totally lost without them and their guidance. And when it comes to trance and spirit being present, I think some of the questions would be more to do with, okay, spiritual development and aspects of that nature, but also how we can benefit in helping one another as a global community move forward spiritually. They're the sort of things which I find fascinating. and find most beneficial for all of us, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only the spirit guide's role to help the medium and the loved ones to get through and to give fantastic evidential messages. It's to help raise the consciousness of the human race.
Totally agree.
You know, and if they can raise consciousness in me and you and anybody else, we're then operating with a raised consciousness, and then that has a knock-on effect, like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, to others. You know, but sometimes I do wish, sort of like, because spiritualism is a massive umbrella, isn't it? It covers so many things, and you know, and I just wish that we were all singing off the same hymn sheet at times. You know what I mean? It's you know, we can take that spirit teaching and put it into our own lives, and practice it in our own lives. You know. Not rather the emphasis being on turning up twice, two or three times a week to get an evidential message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, evidential messages are great. They connect you with your loved ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's to me, it's like a family get together. You know, speaking as a medium, but also your loved ones don't only want to keep proving their survival week in, week out. They want to say, I can see this is going on in your life, and this is my advice on how you can overcome it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So there's that aspect as well. You know, constantly giving evidence, you're just telling people stuff they know. You know, but if you allow the loved one to say, okay, right, I've proved my survival now, and you know who it is now, you know who I am now, I can see this going on in your life. And this is how I think you can get around it. You know, I think that's a lot more productive. You know,
me too. I think I agree. I'm the same in what you said about the umbrella. That's why I laugh when you use the word umbrella, because I think spiritualism isn't just exclusive to mediumship.
That's right.
Incorporates all the other therapists. What's helping somebody? Because that, when we think of something what's spiritual, that umbrella then broadens in a huge way globally. And that for me is the umbrella of spiritualism. Somebody doing Reiki comes under that umbrella. You know, somebody giving an Indian head massage, that's under spiritualism for me. Because there's a spiritual action taking place, which is helping and benefiting somebody. And this is funny, what you mentioned about giving the messages and you get enough evidence from, you know, the survival of your mum and dad and your son or your daughter.
Yeah.
I still believe it. It's like, at what point do we then receive, because we want guidance. When we come into spiritualism, we go, okay, I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking for information, what's going to help me on in the situation where I am and my spiritual path going forward. So we call it guidance. And often I think, at what point do we listen to spirit? Because we can hear the same messages, the guidance given from spirit to somebody, and then a week later, a month later, 6 months, exactly what you've said, that person still sit there and it's like, well, we can't keep coming giving you the same information if you're not going to do it about it. You're asking us to give you it. And I think spirit, I think it's a big thing with behind the message, what spirit is saying is, look, we can help you. You can see 3 different routes in your situation at the minute. We can see 5, 10 or 20 or whatever. So we're going to present different, you know, a couple of them bits. And you've got to do the way. You've got to go, right, they've said to me, I can do such and so, I'm going to do it. And I've always had that rule where when I used to get information from spirit and they go, right, do such and such, not 100%, I didn't, but the majority definitely, because I had this view where if I was going to come to you, Stephen, for some advice, and you said, look, God, you've got a choice here. I can only see 2 or 3 ways. And you go, well, look, you've got this other angle here, and you've got this other angle. If I go away after listening to you, don't do anything about it, I've then got 2 or 3 extra pieces of information, what are beneficial, what could be potentially beneficial for me. And then I come back to you the following week or in 2 months, Steve, what can I do? You're going to go, well, I've told you. And then I come back to you in 12 months with the same thing. And you're going to go, are you kidding me?
Yeah. It's you just want to bang your head off the wall.
Yeah. So it's like, so I see Spirit offering people information with that phenomenal, immense, infinite patience they've got. And somebody's still sitting there going, oh, well, and my life's not changed. And it's like, well, you've been sat there 2 years and you've had masses of information and guidance from Spirit, and you're still going, okay. Yeah. And all I can do is laugh because, people are where they are.
Well, that's right. I mean, I come along and I'll give him one of them messages and they say, yeah, I've been told that before. And I say, well, get on and do it then.
Exactly.
What you're sitting there saying, I've had that before and all the rest of it, get on and do something about it. You're sitting here moaning about this, that, and the other.
Correct.
Spirit is giving you a way forward. Get on with it.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, Spirit Guide you said evidence is valuable just enough so that the person who's receiving a message knows who's communicating. After that, then comes the message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, there's something else I was going on to say, but, there's so many different schools of thought on mediumship and what it should be. Mediumship can be anything, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
If somebody, if say, for instance, somebody's big toe twitches at a certain point, they know such and such a thing's going to happen.
Yeah.
That can be mediumship, can't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and but there's too many people sort of like ramming things down people's throats, saying it should be done this way, it should be done that way. You've got 5 clairs and all the rest of it. Complete rubbish. You know what I mean? Spirit will work with you in the best way that they can work with you, and you work with them in the best way that you can work with them.
Just going to say, I agree with you, Patrick. What you just said, Spirit are amazing, and I think both me and Stephen, I think we're all 100% in agreement with that one. It's priceless. Just want to say hello to Tanya as well. Thanks for joining us, Tanya.
Yeah, hi,
Tanya. Thanks for joining. Lovely to see you. Yeah, just going on to that point then, Stephen. It's like mediumship. Okay, you can say mediumship in its, let's say, in its original form. Well, I've got to be careful with that word because it goes even further back. But it's, let's say, it's relatively usual form. Is that communicate? It's the middleman, isn't it? The medium in between that middle. And then, of course, it got wrapped and enveloped in spiritualism, which then meant, okay, a medium connects with the spirit world. They're the go-between. But I like what you said. The medium is, for me, and these are, different people take these words differently. The medium is the channel or the vessel of any nature for spiritual beings to try and put energy and inspiration through them for themselves and for others. And it comes in the form of a twitching little toe, or the back of my neck's got itching.
Yeah,
all these signs and things.
Yeah, or I want to do the hokey pokey. That means that's that needs to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think strongly, and this is what I was taught years ago in Circle, that a medium is a universal communicator.
Like that one.
So don't just communicate with people's loved ones. If an alien being wants to come through, an alien consciousness wants to come through and tell them something, let them through. Or a spirit guide or something like that, I've even given people messages from the fairies from the bottom of their garden.
You see, this is...
what I mean? And you've got the committee there all up in arms and all that, But,
You've just described
the message, so you know what I mean.
For me, you've just described modern spiritualism.
Yeah,
being open to if ETs and galactic beings are coming through, brilliant. Because there's no stopping them anyway, because they're coming through. I love that.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody's stopping that at the minute anyway.
We've got to be prepared to develop that level of awareness to do it. I was learning that in 1979.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Don't show anybody your age, Stephen, because now you're in the modern mind now.
They can see me grey hair, mate. You know what I mean? You know, there's no getting away from it now. You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah. No, it's there, isn't it? It's like we're now in a state of. I think previously what happened is, and again, it's just our own opinions, isn't it? My understanding of your perception of it is, it was correct. Mediumship and spiritualism was correct for that period of time.
Yeah.
And it worked its absolute magic. Okay, we can say it had its fault lines. Probably still got some fault lines if we think fault lines. I personally, in a way, don't. But because I just think it is what it is, and it was what it was. And I think it was perfect for its time until humanity reached this point of expansion. And now we're seeing that psychic expansion take place in recent years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but especially 5 years. And in that expansion, it's opened up now to cosmic beings, the fairies, the dragons, everything is on the table, you know, and it's like, I absolutely love it. I just love it. Because for two reasons. One, if a being of light, whether it's from the spiritual planes, celestial planes, or you know, interdimensional beings, etc., can get through to somebody and benefit them, and therefore there can be a channel to benefit somebody else in the slightest bit, it's job done for me.
Yeah, exactly. I just think there's too much censorship of what a medium can give.
Yeah.
You know, only bring evidence through, only bring loved ones through, and only bring evidence through, and all the rest of it. Where you've got this wealth of varying consciousnesses within the universe and all around us.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that, Francis. Mediumship is evolving. But what do you think of this, Colin? Spirit will teach to the level of the understanding at the time.
100%.
You know, so if people are just sort of like staying at one level and not listening,
yeah,
you know what I mean, then there's no evolution, as Francis says. We've got to be prepared to evolve. It's like as a developing medium. Now, I've been a practicing medium for 42 years, and I still say that I'm developing, because I know that Spirit will want to develop new things with me, as they do with any channel.
Yeah.
You know, so, and they want to evolve us in our knowledge so that we can share more knowledge. Because there's the old teaching of all knowledge must be shared.
Yeah.
And I did a workshop Saturday, and basically I was telling them what my teacher told me. So I'm passing it on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All knowledge should be shared. And I just got a nice warm glow about that. I was giving them the same exercises and the same teaching as I received from Berenice years ago.
Yeah.
And it was like carrying it on. And I just got a nice warm feeling out of that. You
Beautiful,
know.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I think when the teachings, well, I'm going to say it, I was going to hold back, I'm not. I think when the teachings, the spiritual teachings are pure,
yeah,
that's how we feel. That warmth and the way you was feeling when you're passing it on. Because there's something pure about them teachings, and there's something also pure about passing the knowledge or passing the teachings on. Because I think the same. I don't know which. I think there was an Arabic poet, or I don't know the name. And then he's saying, pardon?
It's probably Rumi.
Right.
R-U-M-I?
Maybe. And basically they were saying it's almost criminal to not share spiritual teachings. It's wrong not to share spiritual teachings.
Yeah.
You know, because I think ultimately it don't belong to any of us anyway. None of us have got the monopoly on it. No, I think the teachings are, because we're interconnected beings, then all the teachings are interconnected, and they, that's if anything, right. If they belong to anybody, they belong to all of us. Everybody's got the right to, you know, take them on board. What I find fascinating on a little point what you was mentioning is, if a mind continues to absorb and absorb teachings and doesn't do anything with them, what they're doing is those teachings will eventually stagnate and become a burden on them, on that mind. And it's going to be difficult for them to then start shifting them. I think all teachings should be as a channel. We receive the teachings, they flow through this channel and straight out. And therefore we keep that clear space within us.
Yeah.
And okay, we can put a tap on it. Oh, Nigel. Yes. Hi, Nigel. Hi, Francis, by the way. I don't know if everybody else is joining. I'm just going to have a look, see if anybody else has joined us. Let's have a look.
Nigel, is it telepathy, though? And we argue.
Maybe it's time to drop the label spiritualism. We are all telepathic and part of the collective infinity. By just referring to an innate telepathic existence, we can gradually disperse with the labels that can create different perceptions, which can invariably obscure the truth.
I think I agree with the fact that we obscure things with labels.
Yeah.
And I think, we should make some effort to drop some of these labels. I ask the question, is it telepathy? Or is it psychic communication?
Yeah.
Because it's energy.
Sorry, yeah.
I would say it's energy connections, which are psychic energy.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask.
Mind, heart to heart, soul to soul.
Yeah.
And it's all interlinked on this grid. You know what I mean? So telepathy in itself could be a label.
Yeah.
But we have to communicate, don't we?
Yeah. Can you I'm just going to ask, bring this question. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree. It's like telepathic label. Spiritualism. It's true. I think this is a fascinating one, Nigel, because I'm pleased you put this one up. Because if we can keep it up, because I want to just kind of, there's different aspects to this. So first thing from my kind of perception is we're at a point now, and this is where I think you've got a good point, Nigel. We're at a point, the species is at a point in evolution, and where we know we're expanding and ascending our consciousness. And we're getting very close to the point where I think we're going to lose some, if not all, labels, and potentially we may lose language itself completely, and do what you've just described, somehow communicating mind to mind, soul to soul, what you've just said, Steve, and which I presume Nigel's roughly saying as well. It's going to let go of everything and communicate, because if we can communicate with spirit, we can communicate with each other psychically on a soul level. If we call it telepathic or whatever we call it, communication. It's a means of communication, but it's a means of sensing the energies of what's going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree about the labels, and spiritualism and everything like that. But I read something quite interesting the other week that a spirit guide was saying, I forget which spirit guide it was, that because along the lines of everything is connected, if you do a good deed, or have a good thought, or do a good deed, that could do some good in 600 years' time.
Yeah.
Somewhere, or if you do a bad deed and a bad thought, that could do some bad, not only in the future, but in the past. You know what I mean? That's getting all into the quantum side of things.
Let's go there.
But I just think, we should look at ourselves more as energetic beings, as energetic consciousness.
Yeah.
Whether you call it telepathic or psychic or whatever, there are lines of vibration that link us all, and we can communicate down those lines of vibration. I've done that myself, people call it astral projection, but that's a very simplistic way of looking how we can connect with others through these lines of vibration, through these consciousnesses, or telepathy, or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
You can be there with them, but you can be in your living room. You know what I mean? consciously you can give them.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Astral projection. You know what I mean? But yeah,
it's like. I mean, okay, just quickly on what Nigel was saying, in that theme of what you were saying, Nigel, I think we're at that stage where we still need language and labels to define and explain with some degree of clarity so we can understand and others can understand what's going on. So we're almost like, it's like we're maintaining an order of a system of understanding, so therefore we can understand what something is, and that's why it's labeled still. In the future is where we'll go, where it'll be beyond labels, but at the minute we're still kind of not stuck there, but we're there, and we still need them. And then skipping over to what you were saying, Stephen, beings of awareness. We're just beings of awareness completely.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said. I agree with what Nigel was saying, but I agree with you. It is use labels and certain references so that we can communicate with each other, and we're at that point with our communication evolution. But I do agree, because I'm reading Nigel's next comment about the letting go process. But what my guides are telling people is that
please, you can see it.
We focus on our mortality too much. We should look at our eternal selves. That we are eternal now, not when we pop our clogs. And if we can look at, just shove our mortality to one side, because we're only here for a brief amount of time, and look at our eternal selves and what we truly are, then I think we can drop a lot of these labels and the telepathy and however we communicate with each other and the other side of the world or the other side of the universe can come forward to the fore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Spirit will tell us that, they only have to sort of like think of somewhere and they're there. You know what I mean? And if we look at ourselves as, I don't want to, because this is another label, powerful. We are powerful beings, and to me that's another label. But if we look at ourselves as eternal rather than mortal, then it opens heart and mind, and it expands our consciousness, and it gives us so much more to explore. That's my way of thinking, anyway.
Beautiful. No, I totally agree. It's like we're at that point, aren't we? Where we're reckoning. I mean, it's almost as if we've overcome everything as we understand in this life, in this physical life, and the last obstacle, the very last obstacle or hurdle or whatever it is to overcome the concept of death, which you've just described. Because we're overcoming death, we're now then going, okay, we are mortal beings in a physical body. We can be simultaneously in different locations, sitting on the sofa, and we can still be, walking around the rings of Saturn or whatever we want to do. Consciousness sort of thing. I just want to come to this and have a look at this. Thanks, Nigel. Yes, this is what I refer to as the ultimate letting go process. That is inextricably part of our reconnection to infinity within our human selves.
I agree with that. If we're eternal and not mortal, we start reconnecting to infinity or eternity, or whichever way we want to put it. And I just think we just become just so much more aware and so much more evolved because we start thinking and learning in a different way. You know what I mean? And our awareness and whatever we want to call our spiritual gifts or whatever we can do spiritually, will get upgraded.
Yeah. I'm pleased. Good point, Stephen. In relation to this. Funny you mentioned the letting go process, Nigel, because we've got a retreat, letting go process retreat next month in June. In June, we're going to put it on for a weekend, Friday to the Sunday. And it's a specific process, what Spirit gave me some time ago, years ago. And they've let me loose with it now, we can get it out there. As far as the reconnection bit is, and I've got to get my head around this, or maybe I haven't, I don't know yet. anything what's got them two letters in re, I have a little issue with, because most of them make reference to the past, reconnection, retaining, etc. All these, and I think, and the reason why I have a little issue with it is because of that, it pulls the mind backwards. It pulls the mind into the past, and it can have a tendency of thinking, well, we've lost something, or we've done something wrong in the past, and it goes against what I believe, because I believe everything is in perfect order with the cosmos. I think the cosmos is in perfect order, and therefore what's happening to us and our life and this existence we're living is perfect in every moment, and there's no such thing as reconnection or retaining. And you, from that point, we can say the future is the same. Okay, we can play and go, well, we know the past and the future in the present because we can, connect immediately to whatever thought or memory we've got. So I think we're at this junction where we'll probably end up stop using them words such as, reconnect, etc., etc. I've got some writing on this about this, to be honest, because it really fascinates me. It reminds me, I'll tell you what it reminds me of. It's like in England, especially, they always have these old period dramas on the TV, and some people love them, but it keeps the mind in the past rather than in the present. And it's just me. I'm just big about the present time and present moment, because in the present moment is where everything's happening, and the past and the future can be a distraction. It's like exactly the letting go process. That's why we're doing it, is so people can free themselves and liberate their own mind, which will bring their awareness more into the present moment. And from the present moment is what we're talking now, you just describing, Stephen. It's like we'll be able to attain so many elevated, beautiful elevated in this way, positive, elevated aspects of our own awareness, and connect with beings way beyond what we can probably imagine anyway at the minute. And I'm big on celestial and cosmic beings and interdimensional things. I love it.
Yeah, I agree with the reconnection. I understand why you have a little problem with the re thing, because you're right, it does go back into the past. But I meet so many people on my journey, that they need proof week in, week out. They're so sort of stuck in their own mortality.
Yeah.
And no matter how much proof they get of eternal life, they're still grounded in their mortality. But if they sort of like realise that they are eternal, then, as Nigel said, they can reconnect to infinity. Because I just think there is a lost connection there. Look, what Nigel's saying is, I don't know if you can see this, Colin. Is our telepathic ability really a gift? Sorry, is our telepathic ability really a gift? More so, it's our innate selves and to be accepted as so. I'll agree with that. But, people like me or Colin or anybody that does this, but we come along and we're telling people things and doing things, especially with healing, that it's considered that many can't, even though we all have these gifts and awarenesses.
Yeah.
We all have this awareness. Let's call it awareness rather than a gift, but it does seem to others like a gift, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And perhaps that's another label that we should drop.
It is, isn't it? We're just using. Often people use the word gift, don't they? Because I think because they find it special and precious, and it's like a gift to us. And exactly, Steve. It is another label, and definitely agree with what you're saying there, Nigel. Our innate selves, which I've got to be careful here because I want to open that one. I'm not, but our innate selves. The capacity or capability, what we have got, if we abide in the true nature of the essence of our awareness, is phenomenal. And it outweighs all of these things. It's almost like we're having the conversations, we're writing the words, writing the books, etc., as almost material stepping stones of a certain energy and a certain nature in order to propel us into that space of our own inner awareness where everything just is and it's all happening. And in all that, we can say, because what we're doing is we're diluting our awareness to a point where we're kind of drawing our awareness down from its pure state into this physical body so that we can relate to this reality in the way we do, all of us individually, in our own unique way and separate way as far as the separate states of awareness or the separate frequencies and vibrations of each individual's awareness. But really what's happening is to bring light into this realm more than anything else, with that the essence of spiritual guides next to us as we're doing that and their guidance. So this is why I love these conversations, because we're just using them as stepping stones, aren't we, to project us into that next frequency of our own awareness and each other's, maybe. Don't know. I just went off on one. Sorry, Stephen.
No, that's all right. Francis Beck. I mean, I watch a lot of the NDEs on YouTube, and most of them say, apart from going down the tunnel and seeing their loved ones and everything like that, or they'll be taken to other realms, but no words will be spoken. You know, it's just like a knowing.
Yeah.
Now they're communicating, or like Nigel says about telepathy, the way it's like a telepathic link. They're not actually using their mouths to speak and their ears to listen. They're picking it all. They're communicating, like, for want of a better word, a telepathic link.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's our next stage of evolution of communication, because you won't only, because people could tell you what want out their mouths, can't they? But if you're actually feeling what they feel and what you're actually thinking, then you get a true essence of their words.
Yeah.
You know,
I think I think you've just really said a really good point, Stephen. It's like when we're fully open up, when we're opened up to a certain degree, and we do sense those, this has got source. I mean, mine's just gone, right. So you've just triggered some. So when we open up to a certain point, and we get to that point, what you've just described about sensing the meaning behind the words, what somebody's speaking, that leads us to a very specific place. When somebody says, we don't always know what somebody's thinking, we don't always know what somebody's feeling. Well, I disagree with that. I think we have the capacity and one of the ways what you've just described it is one of the ways we can do it. By being really opened up, we can sense, I'll use an example, somebody's trying to express a situation, what they're in, it's painful for them or it's joyous for them, whichever one it is. We can sense that joy, we can sense that pain, and we can relate to it 100%.
Yeah.
Because we know that. It's like we're swimming in the same ocean of awareness, and therefore we understand what that vibration is 100%. And so on the surface level, we can say, we don't know what everybody's thinking, we don't know how they're feeling, you know, but on a deeper level, and if that deeper level awareness can come to the surface, then we know exactly what it feels, how you've just described it.
Yeah.
I love this. I absolutely love this aspect. Brilliant. I just wanted to read Francis's, if that's all right.
Yeah,
for me, it seems that language and our lack of words to explain different experiences that holds us back, and we won't progress until we learn to communicate better through other means. Until then, we're probably stuck with labels in some shape or form. 100%, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's 100%.
Probably, you know, for want of a better way of looking at it, you know, telepathy, or whatever you want to call it, is our next stage of evolution, communication-wise, because vibration doesn't lie. emotion doesn't lie. You know what I mean?
It's true. I love this.
And you could get right down. I always say to people, if you can interpret vibration, you basically crack mediumship. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't disagree with me, but there you go.
You see these. Sorry, Stephen. You see these are, for me, these are the important parts of spiritual teachings. What people who are learning the spiritual path, or starting, not so much learning, but starting on their spiritual path, or even further developed on the spiritual path, benefit by listening to and hearing what you've just said, because there's wisdom in that speech, what you've just said. And I find these are the ones what people get so much help from, because you got that. I can feel what he's just said there. That's beneficial. I can use that.
Yeah.
You know, go on, sorry.
One of my favourite sayings, Colin, is that there's more to mediumship than giving messages.
Yeah.
It's about creating like insight, upliftment, whichever you want to call it, healing.
Yeah.
And the medium does it mainly through the spoken word.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful of the vibration of our words and how we're putting it over, and being on that level where we can just understand the level that somebody's at and just take them up a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And that involves knowledge, that involves attunement and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I've
always tried to personally. I've always tried to not just understand the teachings, spiritual teachings. I've dived into the deepest part I possibly could of them, in order to feel and sense, wherever it was possible, the essence of spiritual teachings. And I think it's one of the best ways all of us can learn about spiritual teachings and spiritualism and whatever other subject we want to refer to. Because at that point of that dive, we're submerged in the vibrations and the source of that teaching.
Yeah.
And we're bathed in it, so to speak. And what makes the difference in I think our evolution individually, between diving in deep into a spiritual teaching and simply listening, even though listening to somebody's speaking about spirit and all the teachings is beneficial, unquestionably, it gets to a point of intellectualizing them. And they're intellectualizing, they're thinking about the teachings and they're talking about the teachings, but to fully immerse in them and embody them, the key word here is to embody the spiritual teaching. At that point, then, it's almost we begin to resonate it without even knowing or being conscious. We're resonating and vibrating those teachings.
Yeah.
And there's a pure beauty to that for me. It's very interesting, isn't it? All of it is fascinating. Good. Yeah, thank you, Francis. Well, we're nearly on the hour, Stephen, I think.
Yeah, we're nearly.
Where did that go?
Yeah, that went quick, Colin. You know what I mean? Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
No, me too. Very, very much. Wealth of knowledge and wisdom, Stephen. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. We'll have to jump back on again, and I think we've opened the door now. Well, I think you've opened the door. Starting tripping on those frequencies. Let's take them further if you want at some point in the future.
Yeah, please. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And thank you, Nigel, and thank you, Francis, for your contributions too. Yeah.
Thank you to everybody for being here. It's been great. Thanks to Ava for hosting and managing it behind the scenes. Hopefully, to Patrick, thanks very much, Patrick, Neva, Tanya, Bushra. Is she still with us? I'm not sure. Thank you so much. So, have you got anything coming up, Stephen? What you want to share with us? Any workshops or anything?
I'm doing more. I did my first trance work, teaching at a first trance workshop. That went well. But I'm doing more teaching now. It seems that Spirit want me to go down that route, the teaching route. So yeah.
Well, it's needed, isn't it?
Yeah. I've been invited to do workshops and stuff like that. But I'm up north in August, and I'm doing a trance demonstration up there, as well as the demonstrations of mediumship. Yeah, I'm just carrying on, you know, just going around demonstrating mediumship, or, you know, doing workshops or demonstrating trance or having chats online. You know, it's just, you know, it's all rock and roll. I'm loving it. You know?
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Where can everybody find you? Stephen Rowlands.
Oh, Stephen Rowlands on Facebook, or my spiritual group is Eternal Path.
Eternal Path.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Just a couple of notices for Menorca Consciousness Group. We've got a few bits coming up. Please check us out on Menorca Consciousness Group. Next weekend, next Saturday, we've got a full day workshop on spiritual guides. There'll be a PowerPoint presentation, but it's not just spiritual guides, it's generating your spiritual guide, or generating your spiritual guide, where you can kind of embody who they are. So that's all guided techniques or processes. Next month, we've got the letting go process, Friday to the Sunday. And in between that, we've got a full weekend of mediumship, Friday to Sunday. There'll be 7 modules. Everybody's welcome. Check those out if you like. Please don't expect to become a medium after the weekend, though. I put the disclaimer in on that one, on them ones.
Yeah.
Anyway, so check us both out. Check Stephen out. And thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ada. And we'll see you all very soon. Lots of love.
Yeah.
May the force be with you.
Yeah. God bless. Good night.
Thank you, Stephen.
Cheers.
Good night.